I have one older sister and two unconditionally loving parents. Uh, my first word might have been ball, even before mom or dad. My father would wake me up before he would go off to work. I'm from Mahwah, New Jersey, northernmost town in New Jersey. He had a commute of about an hour and a half up to Connecticut, both ways. And I just remember being woken up by him, us going down into the basement playing ball for a couple hours before he took off from work, and then I'm alive, a lot of energy, and I'm waking up mom, which obviously is not a good thing right away. But the first thing that I remember about my childhood is always having a ball in my hand. Right? You talk about the 10,000 hour rule, anything like that. It really starts with my parents' love for sport, and nowadays I think looking at the grand scheme of children that are being forced into sport, that was never the case for me. They put a ball in front of me and I loved ball, right? And I loved to play. I played everything under the sun. The only sport that I've never played is hockey on ice. I have played roller hockey. I even tried my hand at mixed martial arts, karate. My mom was a 4 or 5 plus tennis player. So I definitely get the competitive fire from her. I remember being maybe 10 years old, maybe less than that, and a lot of tears, me going back and forth with her in a ping pong match in our basement. And I see that those stories now, where it was kind of like the moment that I beat her in ping pong, I never let her beat me again. Here I am, only 11, 12, 13 years old, and I've got this competitive fire of somebody that's 5 years my elder. I have was fortunate enough to have like 4 or 5 guys down the block that were 4 or 5 years older than me, and I was always like the fifth or 10th guy for pickup basketball games. And I remember yanking on my mom's skirt, saying, "Can I go down to Mario's house and play with them?" And there's a lot of learning that happens there too, right? Because I got to find ways, from a skill acquisition standpoint, to survive and find ways to that I can thrive. So that was a lot of ball handling. I was really into basketball at the time when I was a really young kid. All throughout high school, I played football, basketball, and lacrosse. So that's when I really started to focus on 3 sports. I still remember the day, and I'm sure my mother does too, where I said, I think I'm done with this whole soccer thing. And my mom's getting a subtle fist pump in the background. But it was the first time I decided, I'm not going to play football and soccer in the same sport. I'm not going to play baseball and lacrosse in the same season. So I move away from soccer into football, basketball, and lacrosse. And that's really what I specialized. I don't want to be too long winded here. I hope that I'm covering the topic of my early childhood. But then I was playing those 3 sports intensely. I was never playing the other sport outside of that season. However, I knew as I got past my freshman year, I'm 15 years old, I wanted to focus on lacrosse. I knew that was going to be my sport. Uh, and I started, there's through lines that I could be tangential about my story, whether I go strength and conditioning route or the extra practicing route and the specialization in that sport. So really up to you where you want me to take things next.
I'd love to just hear, while you're in high school and you're thinking lacrosse is you're going to be your, specialty. What are you thinking of doing with it? Are you thinking you're going to get to college with it? You're going to play professional? What's the goal at that time?
Yeah, absolutely. I think when I look back, I knew I wanted to play pro sport, right? I've always had that dream. That was definitely true. Being that lacrosse, pro lacrosse has only been around since the early 2000s, at least on the pro level. That was never a dream since I was born in the early 90s. It was never like a dream when I'm 8 years old. It couldn't be because it didn't exist. However, I did want to play pro sport. I thought it was going to be basketball, and then I thought it was going to be football. And then I kind of remember taking a different trajectory all throughout high school. If there's a high school athlete that's listening to this, I put my small little hand in my dad's hand, and we shook hands that I wouldn't be drinking throughout high school, which is very rare. Avoiding those kind of distractions was very tough for me because all my peers were doing that and going that way. I remember my junior and senior year, I was the designated driver for everybody, and I look back at those years. Although I missed out on a lot of parties, I had a different dream involved. And when I chose to specialize in lacrosse, it was primarily because I said, I think I could use this to get into a school that grades won't just get me into a loan, and I could use it as a kicker. Is how my father and mother were looking at it. I remember having this like Excel spreadsheet of schools that were my target, my reach, my safety, and I wanted to use lacrosse to get into those reaches, right? Which did end up happening. It was a long road of 3 to 4 years of silence, not getting any feedback from coaches. The physical growth was there. I was 155 pounds as a freshman, 168 as a sophomore. And then going into my junior year, when I really was like, I need to do something about this, I hooked up with a company at the time that was called One Result. I put on 23 pounds of muscle in 3 months through that company. They're no longer around. However, they gave me 3 months of free nutrition plan, workout plan, supplement plan. And I was like, I can get this physical thing in order. And I did. And I was able, my junior year of high school, to win North Jersey Player of the Year. Really came onto the map. And then by that time, recruiting was all backed up, because the recruiting at the time for the lacrosse world was they were verbally committing freshmen and sophomores. So I was kind of behind on the boat. And fast forward to deciding to take a postgraduate year rather than play football and lacrosse at Williams, which is a great school. I knew I wanted to play Division I lacrosse. When I declared through email to all the Division I school coaches that I would take a prep postgraduate year, did 3 or 4 tournaments my senior year, and that's when I was offered by Yale, Harvard, and Georgetown. So if there's anything, that chapter of my story was I was willing to bet on myself. I said no to an offer that I've been waiting for, which was Williams, and then I said, I want things that are going to be a little bit different than that, and it ended up working out. So that was really an awesome experience. And then what really comes into play, and I'm probably have to bring to the foreground, is the mentors I had in my life. Coach Brian Callanan, who put a stick in my hand as a 5th grader. He ended up being my high school coach for 2 years. I had great high school coach in Coach Yanko after that. Then I had a prep school coach who's one of the most winning coaches in lacrosse history for high school, Coach Chip Davis at Deerfield Academy. And then I played for Andy Shea at Yale, who just won a national championship in 2018. So those mentors, those people really stick out in my mind as having a huge influence on my growth.
When you have the goal of getting to, that Division I level, is it the prestige of playing at Division I level? Is it the competition level? What's the differentiator there for you?
Yeah, I think that was it. The competitive edge that I have, like I talked about early on in my childhood, that never went anywhere. I really wanted to compete. I love to compete. It's many things I've had to learn over the years how to turn that off. I love to compete in every fashion. I did it in the classroom. Went through a series of injuries in high school. In 1 year, when I was 18 years old, I had a career-ending football concussion, broken nose in basketball, and then I got a stress fracture in my spine my senior year of lacrosse. Not to mention, while I'm in a hard brace for 6 months, 24/7, my mom gets diagnosed with stage 3 lymphoblastic lymphoma. So it's a bunch of these things right in a row. She's now all better and working with cancer survivors and patients like herself. And I look back at those years, a lot of trauma, but those breakdowns led to breakthroughs. That's for sure. I look back at those years and I say, if those things didn't happen, I wouldn't have had the maturity, the responsibility to grab life by its horns and really navigate my terrain as an 18-year-old. Now, being that I'm 27 years old, I feel like I have a different perspective about life, the fragility of it, not being an athlete there for a few months. Well, how do I identify myself? I identify myself as a peak performing athlete. And when I wasn't able to do so, I really poured that competitive fire into the classroom, right? That really helped me excel and as a straight A student. And that really gets to my point where I wanted to play Division I lacrosse because to me, that was the pinnacle of lacrosse. And I wanted to reach the pinnacle of lacrosse. And then it wasn't until my senior year of college where I decided I get told that I'm in the running to get a part of the next year's draft. And I said, okay, yeah, let's do it. I'm all about it. And it was never the ultimate goal to keep going, but the pinnacle always was. I always had a competitive fire to keep going.
When you get to Yale and you're on the lacrosse team, are you thinking academically, like what is next? Like are you attacking that part of your life as much as you were the sports?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one thing that I excelled at in high school, excelled at on the SATs, was the math side of things, the analytical side of things. So when I met Chip Davis, who was my lacrosse coach, but also my economics teacher at Deerfield Academy in Western Massachusetts, he really spurred my love for economics. That's why I was an economics major at Yale. I ended up my junior and senior year focusing on environmental products for 2 years after Yale. I was living in Manhattan and working for a company called BGC Partners, which is a spinoff of Cantor Fitzgerald, and I was brokering renewable energy for a couple of years, still staying in that same realm, and getting into what I do now. In 2018, I started my own company, Mark Glicini Peak Performance, as I was getting certified as a fitness trainer, nutritionist, and mental performance coach. I had a mental coach my last 2 years at Yale, Brian Kane, and he, when I gave him a call up that I was going to do this transition, I just had something deep in my heart. I wanted to help others. I wanted to help others from a strategic standpoint, help them navigate. I thought the whole focus was going to be high school student athletes getting to the next level, like I wish I had. So that's where it all started for me when I originally made the company Mark Glicini Peak Performance. But it's just really a holistic approach to training that I really developed through those breakdowns that I had in high school, through having a mental coach at Yale, and seeing how my strength and conditioning was a separator for me. So a couple of times at Yale, I won the strength and conditioning award. And I think the reason why I was able to play every single game at Yale was because of my conditioning. And then the next leap into the pro level, I think the reason I've been able to get there and then stay has been the mental aspect, which is what I'm completely enthralled with, learning about, teaching about, even to this day. So Brian Kane puts me in touch with a man by the name of Dr. Rob Gilbert. He's been at Montclair State University in New Jersey for 41 years. I show up on his doorstep. This is another through line that mentors are so important. He didn't know what I wanted from him. All I wanted to do was learn. So I took the graduate course of applied sports psychology with him. It was me and people that were twice my age, athletic directors. I was doing it for no grade, no nothing, no credit. I just wanted to learn how it was done and how it could help me as a pro athlete. Fast forward the next 2 years, I'm his teacher assistant, and now I teach with him and speak with him every single day. I go out to San Diego 2 years ago, 1 year ago. I try out for a team, San Diego Seals, which is National Lacrosse League, pro indoor box lacrosse. And while I'm out there, I meet a phenomenal amount of people, great people. One that really sticks in my mind in the realm that I'm in now is Dr. Christina Versari, who is the head sports psychologist for the NBA. I'm now working underneath her. My trajectory to be, I'm a doctoral student under her in sport and performance psychology. So things have gone full circle back to what I was really into in high school: athletics, sport, performance, all the things that go into it. That's why I went and got certified in those three areas when I was making Mark Glicini Peak Performance, because I knew the mental piece was huge, but I also knew that the strength and conditioning I had was huge. So now when I work with my clientele, the teams and individuals, I'm preaching that holistic training idea. And that just being great from a physical standpoint is not enough, mental standpoint is not enough. It's mind, body, and spirit, and even more than that, relationships.
I spent 12 years scouting football players for the Oakland Raiders, and so I love hearing people talk about themselves as an athlete. So give me the scouting report as you as a lacrosse player.
Over the years, over the years, would you want me to do that or right now?
Maybe at your peak, what you thought you were.
Well, I think I am right now. I'm at my peak. Yeah. The scouting report would have to be that. I think when the national anthem is going on, three things that I really am thinking about every single game before the game goes off are ground balls, which are key to the lacrosse game, communication, another huge key, and then the third and final one is no one's going to outwork me here today, wherever that location is. So if I was to give you a scouting report on me, most skilled, no. Fastest, no. But probably the energy setter, right? So you can be a thermometer or a thermostat. I'm setting the energy on the field, or at least matching the highest on the field. And I think I'm not going to go anywhere for 4 quarters or if it goes more. So that would probably be the biggest bullet point. on it. And I guess that goes hand in hand with my story, right? From the competitive fire side of things, coming back from injury and emotional trauma. And that really feeds into the player I am today. It's been a huge reason why I've been able to stay at the highest level. It's because I find relationships like the Matt Abbotts, like the Brody Merrills, like the Mike Evans, Matanowskis inside of the world of lacrosse. And I looked at to do what they do really, really well, right? Because these people have been playing for 10 plus years, right? And they win the little victories in their life, right? They win those little relationship battles, those little nutrition battles, sleep battles, recovery, training. So as a player, you can summarize me as not necessarily the best lacrosse player on the field, but perhaps the hungriest.
I'd love to talk a little bit about your time in the finance world and trading, and hear about like what came really easy to you, and what was something, because you were such a hard worker in athletics, made it easy to translate.
Yeah, perfect. It's such a great question. I think from a team perspective, right? I still call the people that I work with my BGC family, on the trade, on the renewables desk there. I'm very team oriented. I was always looking out for the team. I always wanted us to. I like a win or a loss. If we had a bad day, I mean, that ate at me. I was thinking about it at night, just as if we lost the game. One of the things that was a weakness of mine when I walked on to the trading floor, brokering floor, was I still remember my boss, my managing director, Nicole Shaughnessy, who is somebody I'm so grateful for. She used to tell me, because I would be like, "Oh, I think that this is going to happen." She goes, "Nobody cares what you think," right? Because it's true. In the world of finance, you're all about results, right? And it wasn't any shot at me. It was a shot at what's going on. Like there's an environment, there's a trade that's going to happen. It's not necessarily things are happening too quick, right? Just like in warfare, just like in sport, we have to be reactionary, right? There's like a synonym through line there, that you have to be reactionary to what's going on and make split second decisions, whether it's military, sport, or those that are making fast trades that are worth a lot of money on Wall Street. So I think one thing I needed to get over was that you don't always have that luxury of thinking things through, and that's something that I learned and picked up quickly, but it made me a better broker. It made me a better, when I pick up the phone and I have to make a decision really, really quickly on a certain scenario, I got better to say, like, this is not what I think, this is what's happening. We have to get a part of it, or otherwise, right? Or else we're going to miss the day, we're going to miss the trade, and things are going to change in front of us. So that's my high, right? Being the team oriented player that I am and still am to this day. And then the weakness was, when things are happening too quickly, it doesn't matter what you think, you got to act.
What goals do you have coming up for the next year?
Awesome. I think from a lacrosse standpoint, I would love to play for Team USA in the 2022 World Games, making that team. I would love to win a championship. I'm a captain of PLL, Premier Lacrosse League's Chaos Lacrosse Club. I would love to win a championship. We lost the championship this year. That's definitely a goal of mine. Keep working to be a better leader for my family, my friends, my teams, from a general standpoint. And then from a Mark Glicini peak performance standpoint in my business, I think I am excited about the growth that's happening for it. I am working with a lot of elite individuals. It's expanded away from the high school student athlete. It's moved to college players and college teams, pro athletes, Olympic athletes, and adult professionals. That kind of expansion excites me. I'm completely obsessed with what I'm teaching and learning. So that makes it easy. Even though I'm working many more hours than I was on Wall Street, it's something that I absolutely love as an entrepreneur. So inside the world of Mark Glicini peak performance, I just can hope to continue to wake up with that mentality of who needs me, and then be able to deliver the results to my clients so that they can have enhancement in their performance in all facets, whether it's them physically, emotionally, spiritually, or from the mental game, or with their relationships. Turn up the volume in every single one of those ways.
Well, great, man. I mean, it seems like not only your family and your parents and your background, but all the people along the way have kind of kept you very much, grounded in the fact that you know, you always have to figure out what is next, and you have like your hands on a lot of different things, and making sure your future is accounted for. It's cool to hear.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And if I could ask you one question, what would it be one of the biggest things you learned as a 12-year scout for the Oakland Raiders?
I think for me is that like everything kind of matters, and the background of a football player, like all the little pieces. I loved figuring out why a guy was the way that he was. Um, not only was my job figuring out what the guy was as a football player and as an athlete and projecting that talent, but it was figuring out who the person was and trying to make that fit into a story and make that story, then project that out, because it didn't matter what the person is day one. It matters what the person is in a year, two
Oh my
years.
gosh. My favorite word, as every single one of my clients knows, is the word momentum, right? Because we drastically overestimate what we can do in a day, but we drastically underestimate what we can do in a week, month, or year. And I think this would be great for your listeners to hear is I always think about this Venn diagram with this sweet spot being in the middle and the three circles. The three circles of your life are what you're really passionate about, what your skill set is, and the demand from the customer. And I was thinking about that sweet spot for a long time as I was transitioning out of Wall Street. Did I love my job? I think I did. Yeah, I really loved it. I loved doing it. I was looking at my life from a bird's eye view rather than a worm's eye view. And could I still be doing that? Yes. But this is something that my alarm clock is my best friend, right? I'm so passionate about it. And before I made that decision to be like, okay, this is my number one hobby, this is all I really care about, I had to ask myself, is there a demand for this? And am I pretty skilled at it, right? And now I'm working on those areas, right? Staying within the realm of where's the demand as I build this business, and also continuing to work on the skill acquisition because I'm 100% passionate about what I'm doing, and I think that goes hand in hand with what you were saying about understanding the whole story, right? Because now, me even talking about my background and all those things, you can see how those chapters and checkpoints of my life feed into what I'm doing now. The reason why I made Mark Glicini Peak Performance is because I realized if I want to play Premier Lacrosse League and play lacrosse and reach my potential as a pro athlete, I couldn't live in both worlds, Wall Street and there. But in training holistically, and building a business that does so and being a pro athlete, those are in parallel. And I feel like it's only building, and I'm realizing that momentum as time passes, just like you mentioned.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because the past can, you know point to where your future is going, but every minute of your current situation, you have to decide if you're going to keep on that path, or you're going to change it. And if you woke up one day and said, you stopped working, you stopped training, it would lead you in a different path.
It's so true. And one of the quotes that echoes in my mind when you say that is it's not what you're going through, it's what you're going to. I mean, we're going through a really difficult time as a country and a community, right? But it's not what we're going through, it's what we're going to. And if you have that North Star aspiration in your life, it makes everything that you're going through a lot easier. So I think you're 100% hit it on the nail on the head in the fact that it's all about those decisions, and it's not ever the end of the road, even though it did feel like the end of the road there when I was transitioning and all alone and I'm leaving one thing for another. And I don't necessarily have all the support in the world. But I was like, I need to do this for myself. I need to make this transition now because I know my future self will be proud of it. And I never, 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 never lost sight of where I was going to. Right. And if you get caught up with what you're going through, it can really make you susceptible to drift. And I was not drifting, right? Because I always had my eyes on where I was going, which is huge.
I like that term, drifting, man. But I really appreciate you hopping on here, man, and sharing. And your perspective is very strong, and intriguing to hear just how certain you are of where you're headed. It's enlightening.
I really appreciate it. And thank you for reaching out. I hope at least your listeners get one or two nuggets from this. I'm happy to extend it, and I appreciate the conversation.